Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have radiation-proof bacteria. In 2002, Russian astrobiologists hypothesized that a bacteria here on Earth may have actually evolved on Mars. Deinococcus radioduranis is the most tough bacteria on Earth. It can withstand even the most extreme conditions such as cold, dehydration, vacuum, and acid, but the craziest part is that it is virtually radiation-proof. These little microbes can withstand several thousand times the amount of radiation a human can withstand, as well as more radiation than any other bacteria on Earth. You can even find this bacteria on the inside of a nuclear reactor. Scientists did an experiment to see how quickly this bacteria could build up a stronger radiation resistance by zapping the bacteria with enough radiation to kill 99.9% of it, and then leaving the remaining 0.01% to repopulate before zapping it again and repeating the process. It was concluded that it would have taken E. coli thousands and thousands of rounds to build up the same resistance that this hardy bacteria did in only 44 rounds. With this experiment, and based on the dose of radiation they gave each bacteria, it would take millions and millions of years to get even close to that amount of radiation they gave the bacteria in one cycle. Since Earth just doesn't carry that amount of radiation, it has led some scientists to speculate that since Mars is virtually unprotected and receives extremely high amounts of radiation, these bacteria may have evolved on Mars and gained their resistance in just a few 100,000 years, and that they may have been flung off of Mars by an asteroid and then brought to Earth on meteorites. It certainly is just a hypothesis at this point, but really, how else can we explain this random superpowered bacteria that is unlike anything else on our Earth? In our number 9 spot today, we have the USS Princeton UFO. What's a space list without the mention of a UFO sighting? This one took place in 2004. On November 14th of that year, the USS Princeton noticed an unknown aircraft of some sort that was about 100 miles off the coast of San Diego. For 2 weeks prior to this, the crew had been tracking a strange flying object that would start out at around 80,000 feet before extremely quickly dropping to hover right above the Pacific Ocean. Black Aces Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate of Strike Fighter Squadron 41 went over in 2 fighter jets in order to kind of scope out the situation, and when they arrived, they saw what at first appeared to be churning water, while there was an oval shape just below the surface. After this, a white oval-shaped object appeared above the water, but it had no markings on it. Like, we're talking no windows, nothing that would indicate an engine, no wings, and the infrared monitors on the jets didn't pick up any sort of exhaust. The commander and lieutenant commander tried to intercept this strange aircraft, but it very quickly flew away and reappeared on the monitor 60 miles away. Like, when I say quickly, I mean it was moving at 3 times the speed of sound and over twice the speed of the fighter jets. Like some Top Gun Maverick stuff. So faster than any kind of technology we currently have. We still don't know exactly what this was, but I'll tell you one thing. We definitely don't have that kind of technology. In our number 8 spot today, we have the USO. UFO to USO. Daryl Miklos is an explorer who took a deep dive following maps that had been put together by his friend and former astronaut Gordon Cooper. The map Daryl was using was initially made to help identify more than 100 magnetic anomalies in the sea. During one dive at a location within the Bermuda Triangle, where everything weird happens, he thought he was going to find an ancient shipwreck, but instead he found something that continues to stump researchers and Daryl himself. He came across a very strange structure that wasn't like anything he had seen before. This structure had long obtrusions which stuck out from the sides, and the whole thing was covered in coral, so whatever it is, it has been down there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Daryl has said, quote, "There's identical formations in 3 different areas, and they don't look nature-made, they don't look man-made. Certainly nothing I've ever seen based on my experience, and I have years of experience at doing this. We've identified multiple different types of shipwreck material. This doesn't match or look anything like that." People have started speculating that this structure may just be the remains of a crashed UFO. If it isn't that, then what else could it be? In our number 7 spot today, we have the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an extremely mysterious discovery that has stumped researchers ever since it was found. This artifact was found 150 feet below the surface of the Aegean Sea in a shipwreck, and it is the oldest kind of computer ever recorded, as it was dated back to the 7th century BCE. The author David Childress likened the finding to if they had found a jet plane in King Tut's tomb. That's how bizarre this discovery really was. Due to the complexity and oddity of the finding, alien enthusiasts have believed for quite some time that it may have been technology that was passed down from some sort of superior being, so aliens. When the artifact was recreated in order to learn about the mysteries it holds, the mechanism was able to calculate the position and running time of each planet. How would they have been able to create this without the use of sophisticated astronomical tools? I'm not saying that this is like concrete proof of alien life, but I don't know. There's just gotta be something else at play here. In our number 6 spot today, we have fossilized microbes. This is a piece of evidence that came from 1996, and it is said to have come all the way from Mars. 25 years ago, scientists said that they had potentially found what appeared to be fossilized microbes in a lump of Martian rock. This rock was hypothesized to have come off of Mars after some sort of collision that the planet had, and then just casually floated around in space for some 15 million years before it ended up in Antarctica in 1984. You know, just the kind of thing that happens in space. Once the rock was found and analyzed, it was found that it contained organic molecules and small specks of mineralized magnetite, which can sometimes be found in the bacteria here on Earth. Once viewed with an electron microscope, there were signs of bacteria found. Of course, with anything like this, there will always be skeptics, and some have claimed that the magnetite wasn't that similar to those found in bacteria, and some claim that the signs of nanobacteria were just grown in a lab. I'm not a scientist, nor have I seen this Mars rock, so I obviously can't tell you who is telling the truth here, but what I can say is that neither of the people who believe this rock came from Mars, or those who claim that it's fake, can prove their point without any kind of doubt, so I'll just let you draw your own conclusions on this one. In our number 5 spot today, we have quark gluon plasma. So basically, scientists believe that right after the Big Bang, there was this sort of really hot, goopy kind of a substance that was created, and it was made up of all different kinds of matter. Everything is moving around at the speed of light, it's hot, it's fast, and it's like cosmic soup. Okay, so experts at the Large Hadron Collider, which is the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator, wanted to recreate this space soup. You know, part of the whole trying to solve the mysteries of the universe's origins kind of thing. When they did this and got the machine to recreate this, they ended up recording the highest temperature ever. Apparently this soup was measured at 9.9 trillion degrees Fahrenheit. We obviously can all understand that that is insanely hot, but just how hot? Well, that is 366,000 times hotter than the center of the sun. In our number 4 spot today, we have energetic cosmic rays. Energetic cosmic rays are described as high energy protons and atomic nuclei that move through space at nearly the speed of light. There are some that originate from supernova, but there are some that originate from outside of our galaxy, and those ones have scientists wondering where they are coming from and what the source of them is. As these cosmic rays flow into our solar system, their paths are bent by the magnetic fields of both the sun and the earth. Upon impact with Earth's atmosphere, these rays produce a shower of secondary particles. Some of these particles do end up reaching Earth, but most are intercepted by either the magnetosphere or the heliosphere. The strongest cosmic rays are extremely powerful, and they can have energies of over 100 million times greater than a man-made collider. If you're wondering why you should care about this space mystery, it's because these things have the power to cause our digital systems to crash, and in our ever-increasing digital world, that could cause some major disruptions to our life. That is why we care about how many of their origins remain a complete mystery that has scientists stumped. And also because shouldn't we just know where these things that are bombarding Earth's atmosphere are coming from? Concerning is definitely the word I'd use, but honestly, what part of space isn't concerning? In our number 3 spot today, we have ELST PIZARRO. This is a weird little object that has been stumping scientists since it was first discovered in 1979. So basically, asteroids and comets tend to be fairly easy to tell apart. I mean, an asteroid is a solid lump of rock and metal, and you tend to find them more in the inner solar system, especially in the asteroid belt. And on the other hand, we have comets, which are usually more icy objects that travel from the outer areas of the solar system, and sometimes when they react with the solar radiation, they have those famous tails. So when ELST PIZARRO was was first discovered, it was orbiting in the asteroid belt, so it was classified as an asteroid. Flash forward to 1996 and closer examination shows that it had a tail, like a comet. At first, experts thought that perhaps the tail was a result of some sort of collision, which is not uncommon for asteroids, but when the brightness and structure of the tail changed over time, it became clear that it was more of an ongoing process. Basically, this object showed signs and trademarks of both asteroids and comets, and it truly was a baffling discovery. Basically, the discovery of this object led to an entirely new classification: active asteroids. In our number 2 spot today, we have the fastest black hole. The biggest black hole that we have found so far is said to weigh about 40 billion times the mass of our sun, or about 20 times the size of our solar system. That's so scary. That's so big! Some of the outer, slowest orbiting planets in our solar system, like let's take Neptune as an example, orbits at a speed of about 165 Earth years. This huge black hole, the one that's 20 times the size of our solar system, yet it orbits once every 3 months. Do you know how fast that is? Neptune is considered slow at going 12,148 miles per hour. The outer edge of this black hole is moving at half the speed of light. The crazy thing about black holes this large though, other than how fast they're moving apparently, is that it is believed that they wouldn't necessarily kill you right away if you were to fall into one. In fact, it's thought that you would actually survive. You just wouldn't be able to escape to tell the tale because of that whole nothing escapes the black hole thing that they all have going on. In our number 1 spot today, we have supermassive black holes. Speaking of black holes, why is there a supermassive black hole at the center of most galaxies? We know that this is often the case, but we just can't quite figure out why. Every galaxy's supermassive black hole ranges in size, and we know that a stellar black hole forms from a supernova when the core of the star implodes, but we don't know how a supermassive black hole is formed. Because of the fact that the center of galaxies is where a lot of matter is boxed in, it could happen that supermassive black holes form from a cluster of regular stellar black holes, which all ended up merging together because they were in a tight confined space at the center of the galaxy. There are other theories as well, such as the possibility of these supermassive black holes being formed during the Big Bang. What I'm trying to get at is, we don't know how these things are formed, or why they are in the center of most galaxies, or even if there were supermassive black holes before the galaxies even existed. Maybe one day we'll find out, but this might just be one of those mysteries that is destined to stay a secret.
Number 10. NASA's Flying Frog. We'll kick this list off with one of my favorite photos from history ever. On September 13th, 2011, NASA's YETI spacecraft lifted off from Wallop's flight facility in Virginia. Now, to witness a spacecraft take off and go to space, it's amazing, right? People travel across the country to hopefully catch a glimpse of this experience, right? Now, one frame of this specific launch, one photo here, shows an airborne frog. Just flying, he's spread eagle, just in the air, no idea how he got there. The team behind the launch confirms that this photo is real. Can you imagine what's going through his mind right now during this photo? In fact, what was he doing 5 seconds before this launch was ignited? Just sitting on a throttle booster, eating a fly. He's like, man, what can go wrong? Life, you know? If you ever have the chance to check out a NASA launch, keep your head up. It might rain frogs depending where you are. Number 9. Planet 9. With James Webb in the picture, we're seeing more of our universe now than ever. For a while now, astronomers have been confident about a 9th planet orbiting the sun. Now, this 9th planet is hiding far behind Neptune, so we haven't seen it, obviously. We've been here before though. It's hard to tell the scale of these things. The largest asteroid in the solar system was discovered back in 1801, and that day it was initially classified as a planet. But just like Pluto, it was, kicked out of the planet party. Get out of here, you're too small for us. Must be this tall to be a planet. Peace. Talk about this 9th planet began in 2014 when American astronomer Dr. Scott Shepard, he found a small dwarf planet candidate called 2012 VP113. And the orbit of this dwarf planet was too large, it didn't make any sense. Something had to be assisting this colossal spin. For the planet to be acting this way, it would have to be 10 times more massive than our planet here, Earth, and it would take at least 10,000 years to orbit the sun just once. So, Happy New Year, I guess. And considering that it's tucked far behind Neptune, this 9th planet is around 200 times further out than ours. So far, we've covered about 30% of the prime area this planet could be in, and every space fact that I do, I also feel so anxious right after. Holy smokes, space is so scary. Number 8. Bermuda Triangle of Space. Awesome, we love these. If you thought the Bermuda Triangle here on Earth was jarring, buckle up. Turns out they got one in space as well. Awesome, great. I feel the space anxiety in my chest today. A handful of astronauts have experienced this in real life while orbiting our planet. They call it the South Atlantic Anomaly, and it's part of the Earth's magnetic field, and many scientists have connected this triangle to the Van Allen radiation belts. So right above the South Atlantic, when the International Space Station passes through this area, computers often stop working, and astronauts will sometimes experience cosmic flashes in their eyes. That's terrifying. The Hubble has also glitched out when trying to take observations, so what's going on here in this weird triangle? Who knows? Maybe it's the Illuminati that Kanye's talking about. Number 7. ELST PIZARRO. This next one is quite bizarro. First discovered in 1979, its orbit in the asteroid belt led to it being classified initially as an asteroid. Yet when it was examined more closely in 1996, it showed itself to have a tail like a comet. We love an evolving space rock, I guess. Keep changing, keep confusing us, sure. One possibility, maybe there was a collision at some point and that crash ended up exposing some subsurface ice on the body, which is slowly now being lost to space. So now it's whipping by, which explains the new tail. ELST PIZARRO was an asteroid and then a comet, and then once its layers have melted off, now it could be just a plain old boring asteroid. Again, we're not too sure here. ELST PIZARRO got the zoomies for a hot minute, but we're not sure why. Experts had hoped to launch the Castalia spacecraft in 2028 to get a better look, but since 2016 the European Space Agency hasn't had any funding to give this project the green light, so we'll never know probably. Awesome. What's Elon doing? Can we send him up? Take a look. Number 6. Scotland Fireball. What's believed to be space junk belonging to Elon Musk, this fireball seen crashing down over Scotland and Northern Ireland has experts scratching their heads. The fireball was visible for 20 seconds around 10 p.m. on September 14th. Reminder, this was only a couple of months ago, so you might remember it. There were around 1,200 reports on the ball, including 10 videos. The UK Meteor Network wrote on Twitter the next day stating, quote, "We have checked the Starlink deorbit and it would have not have come anywhere near the UK. At this point we cannot find any known space junk or satellite deorbit that could account for this fireball. We are looking at the data again." End quote. This lasted 20 seconds, where a meteor would be much shorter. Any theories as to what this was? I know a lot of our viewers live around this area, so comment down below if you witnessed Optimus Prime's arrival 2 months ago. Number 5. Michigan Lights. If you're a fan of the series Unsolved Mysteries over on Netflix, this next one here should ring a familiar bell. March 8th, 1994, more than 300 911 calls were made, all of which were reporting strange lights in the night sky right along the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. That is way too close to our home right now. That's terrifying. I was born in 1994 as well, so who knows? Maybe I was dropped off by aliens. These objects, these UFOs in question, were described as round like discs, or they were like floating spheres. Both jarring descriptions. They all had different colored lights as well, so planes are obviously out of the question. It's been so long now that the case has finally found its way to Netflix, so no, it is still not solved. Number 4. Steve. Nice. An unexplainable light in the sky named Steve. This sounds Canadian already. Back in 2018, this mystery came to light. There's a light in the sky in Canada, and scientists still have no idea what it is. All they know is that they call it Steve. Steve is short for Strong Thermal Emission Velocity Enhancement. Now, Steve's appearance, I can't lie, he is beautiful. He's gorgeous to look at. Steve looks like a white, purplish ribbon that stretches throughout the sky, almost like the Northern Lights, only scientists are sure that Steve is not an aurora. It's very hot and it doesn't last long. Classic Steve, doesn't last long, eh? Must be Canadian. Number 3, Hodge's meteorite. Now these meteorites, they can happen pretty often, but luckily most of the time it doesn't wipe out everybody and everything. That's pretty good. Sorry dinosaurs, thanks for taking one for the team for us. Back in 1954, residents in Talladega County, Alabama, noticed a ball of fire heading towards them. Now, we didn't have Twitter, we couldn't warn people that maybe a meteor was about to hit and wipe us out forever, and we also didn't really know how to tell if meteorites were coming and how scary it was, so it was alarming. Especially for Anne Elizabeth Hodges, who got hit by that said space rock. Yeah, that ball of fire that we always see going through the sky, that hit her. It grazed her hip. Now you may be asking, was she outside stargazing at this point? Was she doing some cosmic ritual? No, she was napping in her living room, and then an 8-pound chunk of meteorite smashed through her roof and again, only grazed her hip. She got grazed by a meteorite and then received a bruise. First human to ever get hit by a meteorite and probably the last. What a flex that is. Imagine putting that on Tinder. Number 2, go fast. Okay, a bit more modern now. This one was trending recently, but it was originally recorded back in 2015. It was part of that big alien leak that we got to witness over the pandemic. That was fun. That was just what we needed. Middle of a pandemic, the news is like, hey, check out these UFOs also. We don't know. Good luck. Now what you're seeing here is an FA-18 Super Hornet following a UAP. Now we don't call them UFOs anymore because that's so M. Night Shyamalan, alright? We don't do that. We call them UAPs. Also sounds a little smarter. US Navy personnel caught this UAP flying along the East Coast, and there was no exhaust, there was no wings, just a really fast sphere, almost like I mentioned earlier. A 45-foot-long egg, 25,000 feet above the Atlantic, just whipping, and it flew away, and nobody saw it ever since. Do we think UFOs are balls like spheres? I think that's the new thing. We went from discs to spheres. Finally, number 1, Uranus tilts. Jokes aside, and you best believe I had about 20 ready, we're still trying to figure out why Uranus rotates on its side, when every other planet has their axis pointing upwards, right? Uranus's tilt is 98 degrees, so there's long periods of time, like 40 years long, where the North or South Pole will just face the sun directly. It'll just grill the sun for 40 years straight. Perfect place to get your tan on. The other pole, not so much. You're gonna be pale for 40 years, like my dad. Other planets in our solar system, they have a prograde rotation. Now Venus, that has a retrograde rotation. But why? What's going on here? So far, our leading theory is that something massive may have hit these planets many, many moons ago, early in their planet life. Scientists believe that Uranus was hit by a meteor and completely threw it off course. Gotta be careful. Gotta watch Uranus, right? Hit that thumbs up for Uranus.
Number 10, the BIGFIN squid. This deep sea creature will probably be in your nightmares tonight. Looking like a mix between spaghetti and the hair I pulled out of my shower drain this morning, this is the BIGFIN squid. This creature was discovered only about 20 years ago and was first mainly noticed when a group of researchers had been diving to a shipwreck and seen the terrifying squid instead. It's known to live miles beneath the water's surface and seems to just float around in the water. They can grow around 6 meters long, with most of that being in its tentacles and arms, which scientists really don't understand. As the squid appears to just drift around, they're not really sure how it actually uses its tentacles. One thing they do know, however, is that these spaghetti noodles have microscopic suckers on them, which scientists theorize they use to catch prey that bump into them, and they then drag their meal along the sea floor. Number 9, the immortal jellyfish. If any of you out there are planning on discovering how to live forever, these so-called immortal jellyfish may be your ticket to success. When the jellyfish eggs hatch, they grow to full size in just a few weeks, but they don't grow very large. The average size of one of these creatures is only about the size of your pinky nail. So what makes these tiny little guys unique from all the other species of jellyfish out there? Whenever they become damaged or even begin to starve, they reverse back in the developmental process. If you think about the life cycle of a frog that you probably studied in school, they go backwards in this cycle, reverting back to their early stage of a polyp. They can then grow up again, genetically identical to the jellyfish that it used to be, or still is. They can also create clones of themselves, so while one may die, that same creature might still be floating around somewhere. Scientists are desperately looking into this process and how they do it, as they want to look into the medical applications of the jellyfish's abilities. Number 8, the Yeti crab. This fuzzy looking crab was only recently discovered in the mid-2000s, and it's got scientists baffled. They were discovered just south of Easter Island and appear to thrive around hydrothermal vents underwater. It's believed that they eat mollusks around the vents and also appear to grow bacteria on their arms by holding them over top of it so that they can then eat the bacteria later. These animals are also pretty stuck where they are. They are virtually blind due to their deep sea location and only seem to be able to live within very close proximity to the vents. If they wander even just a few meters away from the area, they're highly likely to die. Because of this, the Yeti crabs are typically seen hanging out in massive piles, sometimes up to 600 crabs per square meter, making pictures of these groups of crabs a little unsettling to look at. Not much is known about these guys yet, so it might be a while before we get some solid answers about just how they came to evolve to survive next to these hydrothermal vents. Number 7. RANGEOMORPH. This next one probably isn't one you've ever heard about or seen when you've been walking around. That's because this is a fossil that scientists are working hard to try and understand. It's referred to as an ediacaran and has had researchers confused for years. So here's what we do know about this prehistoric creature. They were largely immobile and could grow to sizes larger than humans. It's especially unique as it's one of the first large multicellular organisms that seem to exist before the first real animals ever evolved. A scan of the fossils allowed researchers to look into the physical makeup of this creature. It had strange internal structures, including its cone-shaped central trunk and the 6 fern-like fronds extending out from it to form a primitive kind of skeleton. There's still a lot to do to figure out just what exactly this creature was, and it's hard to figure out as it disappeared an estimated 540 million years ago. Number 6. Crows. I know what you're thinking. Crows? Yes. Crows. While they may seem like simple avians that you hear squawking away during the day, there's a lot to these birds that scientists don't really seem to understand. The main one being that these guys are mean. Some people know that crows are extremely smart and can be trained to do tasks, as well as having built-in problem-solving capabilities. Well, it looks like they are putting their brains to use. It was discovered in a recent study that crows hold grudges. They can remember the faces of people who captured them and will still be mad about it up to 2 years later. Another interesting fact about that is that they will even pass on these feelings to their friends and family members and encourage them to attack specific people as well. So I think it's in the best interest of all of us to not go out and antagonize any crows. Number 5. The platypus. If you grew up watching Phineas and Ferb, then you're probably familiar with the mammal known as a platypus. But you're probably not familiar with just how strange and unique these duck beavers actually are. When looking at pictures, you might notice that a platypus is not actually turquoise like Perry, but is actually just brown. Well, if you put a platypus under an ultraviolet light, it will actually grow a blue-green color. But unfortunately, a cool hat doesn't immediately appear as well. They are probably best known for being one of only a handful of mammals that lay eggs, and for having a powerful deadly venom on their back legs. One other thing that you may not have known about these guys is that they give sharks a run for their money. And no, not in fighting each other, but I would pay to see that. Instead, it's in the way that they hunt. Even though they're mammals, they mostly hunt underwater, and they close off all their senses while they do so, only using their electrical signals and powers of electrosensitivity in order to find their prey. Number 4. The Argentine ant. If you think it's cool that you have friends all across the globe thanks to the internet, just wait until you hear about the massive global colony of the Argentine ant. They have managed to spread to every country except Antarctica and exist in massive underground colonies, even holding the record for largest known ant colony in the world, spanning across 6,000 kilometers. These invasive species have become a massive problem across the world as they appear to have been waging wars with different species of ants, taking over their ecosystems faster than you can say colonization. Due to the super colonies that these ants are capable of creating, they have strengthened numbers, and their population just seems to be continuing to grow. When Argentine ants from the main large colonies were pitted against each other to see if they would fight, they actually seemed to recognize each other and engaged in a greeting. So let's just hope they're not planning on banding together and taking over Earth anytime soon. Number 3. Cows. I know, everybody has seen a cow before, so what's so weird about it? Well, cows do in fact have one large mystery amongst them that scientists are struggling to figure out. If you've ever driven past a cow field and seen that all the cows seem to be facing in the same direction, there's a reason for that. It looks to some researchers that cows are magnetic. They seem to prefer to stand and graze in accordance to electromagnetic fields, always seeming to stand in a north or south direction. Researchers took satellite pictures of tons of cows in pastures and noticed the similarities in the way that they all seem to align themselves. They also ruled out any other reasons for the cows standing in such a way, such as avoiding the heat, wind, or other elements. I would also choose to argue that aliens put magnets in the cows in order to more easily lift them up into their UFOs. But hey, that's just my theory. Number 2, the Greenland shark. There are tons of different species of sharks out there, and one of the apparently more abnormal and unique ones is the Greenland shark. They're a fairly new find, only first being photographed in 1995, and as a result, we really don't know much about them and have had some trouble explaining some of their behaviors. They can become the size of a great white, able to grow more than 20 feet long and weigh more than 2,500 pounds. They also seem to live a very long time, with the current estimate of their lifespan being around 400 years, and only seeming to reach maturity at the age of around 150. As they live in deep waters, they are often mostly blind and rely on their other senses, which is lucky for them as they can often fall victim to a parasite in their eyes, rendering the organs pretty useless. Their skin is also poisonous and can only be eaten after properly preparing it for months, a process which includes burying the meat in the ground, though I'm not sure why you'd want to go to such long lengths for a bite of shark anyways. Number 1, the axolotl. Probably one of the cutest creatures on this list, we're finishing it off with the axolotl. Fans of Minecraft are probably familiar with this little guy. The creature has many strange abilities which have left many people baffled. One of the most notable is probably its ability to completely regenerate lost limbs, as well as its heart, lungs, spinal cord, and even parts of its brain, and the tissue is regrown without even leaving any scarring behind. Scientists are also especially interested in this creature because they are incredibly resistant to cancer, and they're hoping to find a way to harness the axolotl's natural defense to the disease. They are only able to be found in Mexico, and despite having no major predators, are incredibly endangered, mostly having issues with other creatures eating up their resources. And the reason these guys are so cute is because they have a condition that allows them to keep most of their larval features, which causes them to look pretty similar to big tadpoles.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the discovery of penicillin. Sometimes miracles happen when nobody is looking. That's the key. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin back in 1928. At the time, he was actually studying Staphylococcus, which is a bacteria that causes infections and boils and all that nasty stuff. But right before Alexander left for a 2-week vacation, he left a petri dish with some of that Staphylococcus behind. He left it on the lab table rather than stored away in an incubator. Now, during his well-needed time off, a penicillium mold spore just drifted in there magically, either through the window, up the lab stairwell, some Horton Hears a Who type commute, and the temperature of the room and lack of one Alexander Fleming allowed for the mold to fight back, furthermore preventing that bacteria from growing. He literally changed the world. He discovered this antibacterial substance, and it was only produced by the strains of penicillium. Thank you, because or else we'd be a little uncomfortable. Number 9, mass extinction. Are we part of the 6th extinction? Is it happening right now all around us? Most likely. We lose thousands of species each year, and when looking in the past, asteroids and ice ages, sure, they have all something to do with massive extinction level events, of course, but after humans invented the wheel and then discovered fire, things started to change. We kind of caused a lot of bad stuff. In the 1800s, industrialization drove up extinction rates and continues to do so. According to Elizabeth Colbert, across the world, scientists every day are monitoring what could be the largest extinction event since the dinosaurs. That's us, since the dinosaurs. It's like dinosaurs, T-Rex, and then us, equally as bad. What do you know? Arms are a bit longer now, but still, we're up to no good. The way human beings interact with the environment and affect biodiversity could be more deadly than an asteroid hitting the Earth. That's pretty eye-opening. With an ever-climbing list of endangered species, Colbert and the world asked one question. Is it too late to change it? Like, are we screwed? Most likely, but we can do our best at this point. Okay, let's move on to something a bit lighter so we don't feel like complete trash. Sounds good, let's do it. Number 8, monkey business. Okay, this study done back in 2016, I had to include it because in a list of unsettling things, this definitely fits. This is the most unsettling thing I've ever heard in my life. And yeah, that includes finding out you're part of a mass extinction level event. This one's right beside it. You ever see Planet of the Apes? The voice acting, the motion capture, Andy Serkis, he kills it. All those dots on his face, really good. The voice, nails it. It's like Caesar, it's very deep. I can't even do it. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be doing Planet of the Apes movies. Well, it turns out in real life, they would sound even scarier than that. Research done back in 2016 showed that macaques have a vocal tract capable of speaking. The lucky thing is they just don't have the brain power to do so, or else they would sound like this. Will you marry me? Didn't hear it? Let's hear it again. Will you marry me? Will you marry me? That's the scariest thing. Imagine a macaque saying that to you. I would politely say, no, thank you. I'd be like, no, I'm good, man, thanks. Also, your voice is so deep. Is that laryngitis? What's that? Some vitamins. I was doing fine before I heard this, so I had to bring you down with me. You're welcome. Hit that thumbs up, and also, will you marry me? Number 7, human sacrifice. Archaeology is fascinating, but the digger we deep into the earth, the more we find out about our past. Most of the time, that's not so fun. Our past is pretty shady. Usually these findings are horrible. Not too long ago, we found the remains of a 3,000-year-old skeleton in Greece. They found the skeleton on the side of Mount Lycaon, which historians know as the site of animal sacrifice for Zeus. Ancient writers mention this site and how human sacrifice was also at play, and thanks to technology, we can now confirm that this is indeed the case, sadly. The upper part of the skull was missing, and the body was laid on 2 lines of stones, so it wasn't accidental. There were even stones laid on their pelvis, so something was going on. We look at Greece, of course, as the birthplace of philosophy, democracy, and 100-meter hurdles, and, you know, the 100-meter dash, all the Olympic stuff, that's great. But they also did some sacrificial, shady shit in their off time when they weren't slamming some Merlot. Science has allowed us to take a look all over the world as well, not just Greece. Ancient Egyptians, Aztecs, sometimes after Mayan ball games, sometimes the losing team would just be sacrificed. Yeah, good game, good game, good game, good game. Are we getting sacrificed? No, okay, good. Good game, good game, good game. Everyone talks about how awful humans are now. No, we were pretty bad always, even before we knew how to speak words or what the sun was or what the moon was. We're like, you know what? I don't know what any of this is, but all I do know is that we gotta kill each other. Number 6, whale cancer. The big C, oddly enough, doesn't affect big fish. What do you know? Well, we do know that the risk of cancer increases as you age, but the amount of cells that you have surely has something to do with it, right? So large animals like whales, obviously they have a few more cells laying around. They're a bit husky, they're a bit bigger. You would think that the odds of whales getting cancer would increase, but the reality of it is that whales and dolphins are way less susceptible to cancer than us humans. We still have no idea why. Maybe it's because whales sing a lot? I don't know, maybe if we sing to each other instead of talking and killing, we can maybe beat cancer. I don't know, worth a shot. Let's just start singing like whales. That's how we'll communicate from now on. We'll just go, and then someone else will be like, good, thank you. Number 5, MK Ultra. This one always gives me the chills. Many of you have probably heard of this at some point, but if not, well, buckle up. MK Ultra was a secret CIA project that lasted from 1953 to 1973, where they ran hundreds of experiments to US citizens without them knowing, and they gave them LSD, narcotics, anything in attempts to crack mind control, or as they called it, information gathering. It's like when Apple's like, yeah, we're just gonna gather some info real quick when we talk to Facebook, we're just gonna gather some information. They're spying, definitely. It's bad shit. In the 50s and 60s, around the Cold War, the United States believed that the Soviets, Chinese, and or the North Korean agents were using mind control. I mean, sure, how else could you explain brainwashed prisoners of war in Korea, right? That's gotta be the only explanation as to why they're acting that way. Nothing else to do with it. The program had subjects take LSD, hallucinogens, they had electric shock therapy at one point, horrible stuff and all, and it was being done in universities, hospitals, and prisons. The happenings of this project weren't fully known to the public until years after it ended, but the agency destroyed most MK documents back in 1973 when it ended. So we think we know, in reality, we probably know nothing, Jon Snow. Number 4, skin problems. This is a specific case that I had to share. A Russian lady found a small lump below her eye, her left eye to be specific, and at first she didn't think much of it, but eventually this lump was gone, which is a good sign, but then a new lump had appeared later on. This time it was on her lip. Odd. So when she went to go see a doctor about this lip problem, which is new and the eye problem's now gone, they removed a Dirofilaria repens, which is a thin worm, crawls around in the face. Hence why the bump was disappearing and then reappearing later on. It was moving around. I just got goosebumps talking about that. Now, normally this type of worm only affects animals, dogs, cats, foxes, anything like that. They spread through mosquito bites as well. So next time you're in the woods smacking your arms, I dare you to not think of this. Good game. Number 3, particle accelerator. This list is full of unsettling things. I mean, I hope. I think they're pretty batshit insane. But this next one actually concerns me about our future. I don't mess with science. The at-home volcano trick where you like put in the vinegar and it goes poof, I don't do that. That's even scary for me. What if one experiment could hypothetically swallow our known universe? Would we do it? Sure, sounds fun. Why not? What have we got to lose at this point? Sir Martin Rees, Britain's royal astronomer, shines some light on a dark possibility in his book titled On the Future. The particle accelerator is this massive machine that does exactly that. It smashes these charged particles together at a high speed, all in the name of science. We're trying to further understand condensed matter physics, and while it sure sounds impressive, what if it goes south? What would happen? Well, it could destroy the world, apparently. These particles smashing together could create this strange matter that shrinks Earth down to 300 feet in diameter. Or it creates a black hole, one of the two. A black hole would just suck away all of our existence, or we'd be little tiny people. Thanks, Martin. Now I won't be able to sleep because I'm thinking of particle colliders and Freddy Krueger. Both are equally as haunting. Number 2, no more insects. This one I wish I didn't know. Ignorance is bliss, folks. But we're kind of doomed. No easy way to say it. And so is the bug spray industry, apparently. The world is losing insects, which if you're a little kid or if you're me, sounds like a good thing at first. I don't like bugs. Any bugs. But when scientists tell us that the world has 70% less bugs than it did back in just the 80s, well, that's pretty concerning. Unsettling things scientists don't want us to see. This one they probably don't mind us taking a peek into. But we don't talk about this nearly enough. These buggy dudes are vital for our crops. The movie Interstellar, for example, is about our future and future humans running out of crops. So we should have been listening to Christopher Nolan this entire time. I knew it. Go watch Dark Knight, there's probably some clues in there somewhere. We're too focused on robots gaining the ability to do parkour that we're forgetting the sad science as well. And finally, coming in at number 1, mad cow disease. While we've got our hands full of this COVID madness, let me just add another one there to top you up. I stumbled across this Reddit thread here. It was titled, Scientists of Reddit, what are some scary scientific discoveries that most of the public is unaware of? Yeah, I read through a bunch of them, pretty scary, but I found this gem and had to finish the list off. One reply got lots of feedback, tons of support as well, and there's a great deal of people who just may be carrying around mad cow disease. But we won't know for another decade, give or take. So, sit tight. Stay tuned, I guess. Mad cow disease from the 80s and 90s was due to cows being fed the remains of other animals. Pretty horrible stuff. People then ate their beef and consumed prions, a protein that can destroy the human brain, and it's thought that many people still might carry prions but won't know until they start experiencing the symptoms, which could be 10 to 50 years after consuming said contaminated meat. It has a really long incubation period, and you can also contract the prions from blood transfusions, which is the reason why so many UK citizens from that time period still aren't allowed to donate blood. Fun fact, this is a very real thing. And to answer your question, no, there is no cure, and it can kill you in just a few months. How's that for unsettling?